My name's Sophia Almaria. I'm a Qatari American artist. I came from a background which was not particularly artistic. When I try to think back to the first moment in which I thought, at the very least, I wanted to try, I was probably about 14 years old, and there was a photograph of Shirin Neshat's. And I remember being very drawn to that because I had never seen a woman in chador with Farsi written on her face and a gun. And I'd never seen sort of representation of something which culturally mirrored my own culture on my father's side. And at that time I was starting to wear abaya, and I was really thrilled by this image. And that was also before the internet, so I couldn't look her up. I would not have come to certain realizations if I hadn't been reading Arab women writers in literature when I was studying in Cairo. You know, people like Nawala Saadawi had a huge impact on how I saw I could actually exist in the world. The boy's favorite racer is dead. Last week, he ghost rode his GXR into a roll and got crushed. When I started making films in Doha and video art, it was always very honest and very simple, and it was based off of documentary film that I was shooting myself, and with an increased, sort of an added layer of unreality and theory behind it. My entire career, in a way, has been crawling out of that in order to not just be a woman artist or an artist from the Middle East, but an artist. I think one of the reasons that I have been so almost allergic to being pigeonholed into a particular place is because I feel very frustrated by the way in which the West looks at us. I did have a very funny experience in New Zealand. I made a work which was intended for women and children only. It was in a museum in New Zealand. It was the day I was leaving the country, and I went downstairs to get something from the shop. On the front page of the Dominion Post in Wellington, there was my photograph, like a stock photograph of a woman in a veil, white sort of niqab, and it just said in huge letters, Sharia law comes to New Zealand. I found that really upsetting because this work that I had made was intended entirely to open up a dialogue, to sort of create this safe, women-only space. There was a group of men's rights activists who got very angry because they weren't allowed to see this work. And so it ended up being this big talking point in New Zealand. And I found the whole experience really traumatic because it's interesting the way that your words or your work can just be twisted around to face this, twisted in anybody's hands, you know. For people who come from dual backgrounds, you end up being this, you know, two-faced Janus that has to be speaking to completely different perspectives. You have to sort of split your mind in a way, and so that's exhausting.